Hello, I'm Wendy for GeoLearn, and today we're going to be talking about floodplain management in the continuing series that I've been doing for GeoLearn. This one is also known as E for elevation, but more specifically, why and how elevations actually matter. That they do have a significant relationship between the insurance aspects and the regulatory aspects of floodplain management. We need to look at many different aspects of elevation and how it matters in many different ways. The first one is, what is the elevation of the water that is predicted for a certain flood event? Now, when we're talking about an elevation, that is a little different from a depth of inundation. We can talk about depth, and then we can talk about elevation. The elevation is related to the depth, but it's in terms of its relationship to a known reference point or known datum. A depth is just something in and of itself. It can be a depth here, it can be a depth here, it can be a depth there. An elevation, on the other hand, is in relationship to a very specific datum. And whatever map that is being utilized for the particular study that you're working with, whether it's 29 or 88, we need to look at that datum so we know the true elevation of the relationship of the ground and the relationship of the water surface elevation. That relationship of the ground to the water surface elevation is what gives us that depth of flooding. But we also need to know what is the elevation of the structures that are going to be affected by the water, to know how deeply they will be inundated or whether they will be touched by water at all. In relationship to that, we also need to know how high the floodproofing measures have been taken for buildings, whether it be some kind of a sealant that's applied to the exterior of a structure, or whether it's actually elevating the structure, raising it up from the surface of the earth. Those are both considered floodproofing, but what is the elevation of that floodproofing in relationship to the expected height of the water to know that the structure will be safe or not so safe, or not safe at all. And then, of course, we need to also pay attention to the fact that the water surface elevation predicted now may not be the same as the water surface elevation during a flood event after the watershed has been fully developed. That the water will not have any more place that it can go except downhill because there's so much impervious surface, there's going to be increased runoff. Will we get a rise in the water surface elevation down at the bottom of the floodplain, down in the bottom of the watershed, where all that water will accumulate? So with these in mind, we're going to take a look at whether or not a structure and a property is in the floodplain or out of the floodplain. First of all, we need to realize when we're talking about floodplain, every surface on this planet is a floodplain of sorts. It can be wet. It's just the difference of what is the probability of it being wet. During this session, when we're using the word floodplain, we're going to be talking about 1% annual chance of inundation to a certain extent. The area known as the Special Flood Hazard Area used to be called the 100-year floodplain until people realized that was kind of misleading. But that idea of that 1% annual chance floodplain is the trigger for the regulations and the insurance requirements in the National Flood Insurance Program here in the United States.